Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right.
Should have put the earpiece in just so I know what's going on.
That's always a good idea, especially,
Deb's on assignment tonight. We'll get to the topics in just a minute. Let's start with our St. Michael prayer as to not tease everybody. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of Heavenly Hosts, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who roam through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. All righty.
Amen.
Righty.
So,
Never liked that word, by the way.
Which one? Alrighty, ready?
Where do we hear that? Oh, yeah, that's Jim Carrey. Oh, righty then.
A good question. So, kids, you know what? If you're in chat tonight, feel free to post and let us know you're there. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. And, of course, if you haven't run away with anyone on a truck to get away.
I got run over by a truck.
Give us some hearts. So...
Yeah. I'm putting my earpiece in. It feels more normal.
I wish you would, because you know what? I can't, really hear you that well and interact with you.
You can put yours in there. Yeah.
I've already got my earpiece in.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
see, I should have done what you did.
That's easier that way, you know what I mean? Because once the earpiece is in, what do? You listen.
I piece it in.
Unfortunately, ghosts don't listen. Now,
okay. Wait.
Should we, we had a question from last week's show. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that came from the YouTube channel. Or
before we get into ghosts, we're going to wrap up something from last week real quick, kids, so just bear with us for a moment. Go ahead, Ken.
This was someone I was saying that we tried to move the show along, and unfortunately, sometimes things end up on the live cutting room floor, if that's possible. But that's because we try to move it along. And it was about this case that was local and local. Sometimes you get somebody who is in a position where they don't seem to have very good judgment, free will, self-control.
Yes.
The person was in jail. They made a deal with the devil, say, hey, get me out of here and help me get some money, and the devil's like, yes, and shows up with a pen and paper or whatever. I mean, and like on the serious side of this thing, people don't seem to take this stuff seriously. They make these kind of things, and so he's oppressed, and
totally.
We pretty much diagnosed it. This is another story in itself, how to. And I gave him all of the. We talked to him. We gave him the advice and gave him the prayers, sent medals. And then and
that's usually our MO, kids. When somebody's got some issues and they're trying to figure out what's going on, we have to take it from square one, whether it's a ghosty or a boogity, okay? We have to take it from square one, and we have to say, this is what we're going to do. It's just like baking a cake or anything else. There's a recipe. There's a method to our madness. So that's why Ken was like, okay, here's everything you got to do. Here's what you got to try. So go ahead, Ken.
Exactly, and so we listen to the details and find out, hey, if we think a curse is involved or whatever, we're going to bring curses, prayers, and depending how many, how bad or serious it is, and we might have it do 3 days, 9 days, or even 27 days. Some of the span of 3, multiples of 3. There's a reason behind that. So all of the advice was sound. It's worked on, say, hundreds of other cases at least, that were worse than his. It backed it off 80%. Well, I call and I find out that he threw the medals in a trash can. The voices told him to go rip the Bible up.
That was so bizarre. Remember that? He calls and he says, I'm just ripping stuff up. And they're like, that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah.
That was strange.
And that's what it kept going. It's like, oh, yeah, but denounce the Trinity and all this other stuff. Everything the voices were telling him to do, he did it. And I was just kind of shocked. It's like, what were they doing to threaten you? I want to say that it wasn't really a threat. It was almost like your girlfriend threatening you or something, and she doesn't have any kind of weapon whatsoever. I'm going to touch you. Okay, all right, I'll do it. I'm like, why do you give in so easy? And then you go to your father's house, and you haven't seen him in a while. You never mowed a lawn. The last time you were there, you got into a fist fight with him. And you come like 2 years later and you say, hey, Dad, I really need to use your car for something important. I got a job interview. And then he punches him in the face before he even says yes. I said, that's what you just did to God. Because you just went and desecrated, the sacred and blasphemed and all this other stuff because some friends, that you're hanging out now with suggested to you, and a lot of fashion is subliminals, no longer this little subliminal voice.
That's so true.
So this is one of those God helps those who help themselves. And at some point or another, I just said, have you ever saved money to, buy something that you really wanted? Have you ever pounded a payment until you found a job? Have you ever worked hard at something and won an award at it, or accomplished your goals that you set? He hasn't done any of that stuff. He's just been taken care of his whole life. I think he's like 26 or something now. This is a real problem with this generation, too. I didn't see the free will was there. I said, you need pastoral care. You're going to have to get yourself in thick, because if this is done for you, you're just going to go and listen, because they'll be there and they know you haven't let them go. And there's something you are attached to them about, too, for some reason. And it's probably, like of a sexual nature. The succubus and incubus are in everything now, one way or another. That's if they know that's how they're going to push your buttons. Yeah, that's the way they'll use it. So that was one of those cases.
I love the expression that Father Chad uses. It's so hilarious. He calls it, people pick up the phone and go ring, 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 ring. Hi, Ken and Farah. I'd really, really like a Big Mac with like extra pickles, and can I get a large order of fries and 3 milkshakes? And we say, okay, this is what you got to go do. You got to go get the cow. You got to go get the potatoes, and then you got to sit down and you got to prepare it. And they're like, but I want you to fix it for me. And we're like, but I can't. You have to fix it for yourself. We can give you, the number to the butcher. We can give you the person that's going to sell you potatoes. We can give you all the tools.
Maybe a bucket for the cow.
But you've got to do it. So, Father Ripperger says, yep, they want a McDonald's drive-through service, and it's not available, folks, sadly.
One of the reasons why this one's kind of, it ties our hands for other reasons we're not going to mention, but there's this factor in there that this severity. If we're hearing the voices and they're not cooperating at all at first, and they're not only not cooperating, they're doing the opposite.
We're talking about somebody that's oppressed, that's actually hearing voices, kids. It's like it's impossible to help somebody if they're not willing to do the groundwork. Yeah, this is not deposit 2 quarters in any deliverance team, anybody, and they're going to go like, wow, we've got our instant happy moment. No. If it were that easy, oh my gosh, Ken, we'd be millionaires. We'd be bottling it and selling it, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Somewhere or another, put a nice label on it. But
exactly.
But sad.
It just doesn't work that way,
true.
kids.
Yeah, this is just one of those. Hey, people are going to have to get your free will. And
oh my gosh,
your
and Russell.
in order.
Oh my God, and I'm sure Denise has heard this too. Russell just pointed out. Then they get mad at you when you won't do anything, and then they start bad mouthing you. You should have heard this guy. I'm in the kitchen, Russell, and I'm sitting there chopping up veggies and everything because I had been available last time they called. So the second time they called, it's like I can hear the guy in the other room, and we're talking like 25, 30 feet away. He's like, and I'm like, Ken, this is horrible. And this is pretty much the typical attitude. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to scream at you and just tell you what a loathsome fool you are. And then I'm going to go call somebody. I'm going to complain about you, which they did, but who cares, Fortunately, people know who we are and what we can get done. Yeah, and that's a big blessing. We really do our best. Put ourselves out on the line, go overboard, and really try and make sure we're available. Some people, there's just no pleasing. No how, no way. Yeah,
that's why we can't proceed on that one until I said you need to get spiritually grounded somewhere. You're more grounded in Satanism at this time.
Yeah.
And it would be a possession 24/7 if somebody went there. They went to all the trouble, and they're going to be mad like hornets that you kicked their nest.
And that's really what we got to focus on, kids. Is that's past, it's done. Tonight's topic, though, we're going to be talking about ghosts, all right? So let's just sit back and take a minute here, take a deep breath, and think about everything that we've heard about ghosts is probably related directly to one of 3 sources, okay? It's usually directly to books. And most of us are from the TV generation. We're raised with these really creepy, ghost stories, tales from the dark side.
Silly ones.
That sort of thing. Yeah, or we grew up and people around us, were playing with Ouija boards, or they were doing the Bloody Mary game at sleepovers, or they were out in the woods summoning demons. I don't know how many of you had that fun, but everybody thinks of a ghost as something that could potentially hurt you, which is, kind of far from the truth. So that's why we're going to talk about it tonight. And the whole myth of a ghost is when you think about where the word comes from, the Greek word and the Shema of the spirit of the vapor. It's actually just a vapor. So in other words, think of yourself boiling a pot of water and the vapor rising up. That's, kind of what people describe a ghost is. And from time immemorial, we've had ghosties like bebopping around. Nobody can explain it. Nobody knows why. And a lot of people have a very difficult time understanding that there is such a thing as a ghost apart from the fallen angels. Now, we're not getting into the Loch Ness Monster here. We're not getting into aliens or hairy beasts running around the Pacific Northwest. We're talking about ghosts. And the simple fact that...
Are not ghost Loch Ness Monsters? He's probably dead by now of old age.
I would love to see a ghost Loch Ness Monster. I love the Loch Ness Monster.
Why do I never see ghost fish?
I don't know.
Well, that's what we're going to get into tonight.
Who would want a ghost fish?
Because everybody sees everything. They experience just about everything. I'm surprised no one said, I'm haunted by my son's dead fish. He's floating above me in the school.
So there's two schools of thoughts, kids, especially when you're talking about deliverance and exorcism and you're talking about people that are trying to help people. And there's wonderful people out there in the quote-unquote paranormal world really trying to help people, and we're so blessed. Thank you for all the calls. Thank you for the confidence. We're always glad to help you. There is the school of thought that everything is possibly a ghost or possibly just related to the property and not that big of a deal. And then you have the whole other group over here that's like, well, let's prove it, let's get it down, it's a demon, it's a demon, it's a demon, it's a demon. And those two schools of thought, diametrically opposed, don't allow for any other explanation, such as the possibility that maybe it is a demon from, the people think it's a ghost, or the people that think it's a demon that realize they could be doing more harm than good by not letting the people take their spiritual authority over a piece of property and do something about it and help a soul that could be there for whatever reason. We don't know why God allows it, but sometimes it's allowed. So, Ken, let's get into some of the mainstream occult attitudes towards quote-unquote ghosts and how ghosts are handled in ghost hunting. Let's go over some of those things that people call us and tell us the strangest things. It's like, really?
Oh, okay. I'm looking at a different list than you are, apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, you want me to hand you... let's see. I've got two lists here. This one.
Yeah, that's
right
last week's...
okay,
that's not nothing to do with ghosts. That's actually...
Well, then let's go over, the whole... Okay, because we were talking about history, kids.
Since you already teased them, we got to start on the ghost now. I'll have to do the other one at the end of the show.
We can do it at the end of the show, because there's always good stuff to talk about. So we're going to talk about defining the ghost, Wikipedia styles, because everybody thinks, okay, I've got a cell phone, I've got a computer, I'm going to just define it by Google, right? Okay. So let's define it by Google. Ken, tell us what the people in the know say.
I'd have to bring it up on Google.
Okay, well,
it's just very basic, but a ghost is just supposed to be, it's a spirit, a human spirit. Now, people out there in the parapsychology will define it different than the old ones, such as poltergeist.
Yes.
So we just have to go by what it should be considered, what we are referring to.
And that's so funny because Rose just asked that. She just said, what about poltergeists? So maybe at the end, kids will touch on poltergeists, but right now we're going to focus on ghosts.
Yeah, it is in the list somewhere in there, if I look for it. It's probably near the end. And then number 2 is basic types, and you can come up with, they changed that over the years too, such as apparition is when it's a features that you recognize, like the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or one of those type of things, or your grandma, which more often nowadays seems like it's not any good. And they just call it a spirit if you're not sure what it is in general. You say it's a spirit, and it could be a demon, it could be a ghost, a type of ghost, and is an apparition. A doppelganger is actually a type of ghost because it's still a human spirit. That's what a ghost is. And poltergeists, to date, we haven't really... And the benefit of knowing Lorraine Warren in the older days was that I could call just because I like the demographics on the when someone has been looking into this stuff on that level. Okay, you know, so many people will be like Lorraine Warren. Well, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of people you could give a call. The Exorcist, a lot of them just dealt with people, not places, not human haunts, not spirits like that. But when they have been around a while, they might have something to offer, so keep an open mind. We know we don't go and play with Ouija boards just because we knew Lorraine Warren or anything like that. Or my wife doesn't pretend to be a trance medium, for example.
Heck no.
But the poltergeist thing is, yeah, it's in the list, but we'll get to that a little later. But for the most part, it's not going to be a ghost because of the activity that it does. And poltergeist isn't when you hear footsteps going up the steps, like someone's going about their business and all that stuff. We're talking about something that's got like a center of activity. It can be focused on an individual. Things can be thrown at somebody. Yeah, there's an intelligence behind it. Mm-hmm. Because
my gosh,
the child who surrounds and... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should just talk about it.
What's that, honey? Poltergeist?
Yeah.
Well, it is on the list, okay? You know, because when Ken wrote the Demonologist Handbook, a lot of people were scattered. They were in all kinds of different camps, and he was trying to bring everybody together at the table to look at the history of mythology and the history of, Christianity. And that's why he defined them by, apparition, ghost, spirit, doppelganger, and poltergeist. And Cheryl, you had an excellent point. Sometimes on certain properties, both the demonic and a ghost can be present.
That's what's confusing to people.
It's very confusing and because while certain people are sensitive to both, the ghost and the demon, depending on the location and what's going on at the location, they're not on the same plane. Yes, I'm seeing thumbs. Thank you, everybody. Give us a like and subscribe. Thank you. Okay. On to, you want to talk about poltergeist? I know you're dying. Go, go, go. It's 8:24. We got to pack it in, baby.
I'm not dying.
I'm not either.
The first part of the poltergeist thing, obviously, is that parapsychology had distorted the original meaning of the German, geist is ghost, and polter is what? Is it chicken ghost?
Yeah, poltergeist.
It'd be poultry ghost.
Yum.
But it meant noise. It meant noisy ghosts. And that's what they said it meant. Well, later on, they distorted it, and some of these parapsychologists, some of them are still living, unfortunately, to some degree.
So
because
true.
They're just so one-sided. And you take that as a piece of the puzzle, but the atheist approach, I mean, when Stephen Hawking passed away, how much did we really lose when he doesn't even believe in God? This guy does not know the universe.
It's pretty sad. But, he's not a very good example, though, either.
All right, enough of that. The rant on that. Yeah, but the phenomenon, they said it usually surrounds more often girls, like around puberty, and then you ask yourself why. And here's some examples of things that says there's an intelligence behind it, and it's not PK energy.
Get your pen and paper out, kids.
That the paranormal societies that used to follow that kind of blind science and pseudoscience is that they thought the PK energy comes off of the child, and then when they're going through puberty, it's supposed to be stronger. The problem is it's directed, and it's not the child doing like Firestarter, like their child's over there looking at you like in Star Trek.
Oh, exactly.
Making these things happen. It's not. That wasn't the case at all. The child's playing a video game, not looking, and the glass rises off the counter, moves over to the table, and sits down there, and then drops. You think it's going to sit down, and all of a sudden it just drops. All of those kind of things, focused attack, they're not even watching. What, have they got eyes in the back of their head now? And when did they learn how to control, PK energy to where they're like Luke Skywalker, dropping your sword in the snow and the snowman's coming, and you can just will it to your hands? It doesn't even make sense. To a certain degree, we see all of these things, and we analyze them over the years and years and years, and ask the big questions. Just like one of the oldest questions that I asked was about if it's a science or not. And thanks for distracting me, babe.
Sorry.
Anyway, polter.
I just thought if we were going to have, a Lawrence Welk poltergeist moment, I'd put some little Lawrence Welk bubbles in the air.
All right, you just got bored, is what it is. Anyway, so with the see what I mean?
I apologize for me and the
I get
pygmies.
distracted easy. I'm getting old.
Oh, honey, it's okay.
I'm going to have to tape it over your monitor so I can't see it. I'm going to hang this over here.
Oh, honey,
right
you
now.
know we have fun together. All right, so
Okay,
back
so
to...
what we found out that the incubus succubus is in line with it. You'll find out some of this phenomenon is going on at some degree, and that it is a party for the demonic. This negative energy of coming to age and everything seems to be a correlation in there, because if you can talk to the child, you'll find out that there's also those urges and everything else, and then people are going, oh, I don't know, I disagree with that. Okay, give it some thought or whatever about it. We're not trying to prove anything to you here, but maybe we'd appreciate that you might consider that we've actually looked into this a long time and been considering it for 45 plus years. And this is the big question. It's like, why does sage work for some people? And that was a question we asked some time ago also. So, and then you wonder why it ends suddenly. Well, the person acts on the temptations and this sexual energy, and like I said, it's an uncomfortable subject.
Totally.
It'll end. Something's very important about that, and the demons come to party, and they're little minions, and they multiply the more the energy builds up, and then they do little things like make the phone ring, which can't be done with PK energy. That's 40 volts of pulsating. It's not AC. That would be too fast, because 60 hertz per second is way too fast to make a clapper ring. It would be so fast it wouldn't even be able to make a clapping noise.
Totally
it's so fast.
True.
So that if you looked at all of the evidence that they said was PK energy, these are people that are supposed to be science, and they don't understand how a clapper used to work on a phone, or the electronic ones now, and what it requires. The phone company still sends out for you. You put a clapper phone, it'll still ring.
I agree.
So, Poltergeist almost deserves its own show. So
It totally does. So let's just stick with some ghosts, good or bad. We're going to talk about the good ghosts and the bad ghosts, not necessarily in that order.
Yeah.
As we always talk about, kids, when people call us and say, all right, I've got this and that going on. Now, a lot of times we're going to get a call, like when I used to do house cleansing before I met Ken up in Michigan, I would always say, what's your sleep like? What do you feel like? And they're like, I can't get any sleep. I'm waking up all night. What is the temperature of the house? Because the temperature of usually the youngest member of the house is going to tell you everything you need to know. Like, let's say you have a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 30-year-old. What is the temperature? How are they feeling? Are they sleeping? Are they happy? Are they healthy? If they're not, it's bad. If they're okay, but they're kind of shaking their head and they're going, yeah, I just, I'm, like Zulma was saying earlier, Ken, in chat, she was saying, I saw a small child just after my father passed. Now, that could be completely normal and completely harmless because she wasn't scared, she wasn't frightened or anything else. It was almost as if it was a comforting thing to see something like that. Whereas we tell people, you have to look for the footprints of something dark. And that's absolutely, you cannot miss something dark, because you're going to get stomach upsets, you're going to get headaches, you're going to get aches and pains you normally wouldn't have. Your sleep is going to be disturbed, your digestion is going to be disturbed. So, you could have the runs, or you could have you can't eat anything, you can't keep anything down. Yeah, exactly. And the people in your house, there's going to be constant tension and arguments going on, almost as every little thing, something is going to explode and you just don't know what. So the tension is so thick, it's like you can just cut a knife. It's palpable, kids. So those are some of the footprints you're looking at for the tone and the mood of the house. And as it is in our society, everybody has so much stress just trying to pay their bills and get ends met. Something like this is just, it's like the last strawberry, or should I say dead strawberry, on a rotten, moldy cupcake. It's difficult. You can't choke it down. Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry. You were going to say something?
Oh, no. We're just kind of going back and forth.
Going back on, good or bad, good or bad. And I'm going off about bad. That's what I would ask people. How's the kids doing? Because the kids are doing fine, then the adults are definitely up to something they shouldn't be, and it's about to get worse. I had one case over there on one of the lakes. Oh, gosh, I think it was Cass Lake, where people were seeing things in the house, and come to find out that a gal had drowned out there on the lake probably about a year before. And so, I was hanging out at the fire with everybody, and we're all just, sitting, just roasting some marshmallows and everything else. The kids are totally fine. The adults were the ones that were kind of just like, I don't know what's going on. They were bothered by it to the sense that they couldn't believe that it wasn't somebody that didn't live there, but it wasn't bothering them. They weren't losing sleep or anything. It was just one of those things, like the majority of people, when we say yes, ghosts exist, they're like, oh no, they don't exist. No, no. They absolutely refuse. The kids are running around, chasing fireflies, having a blast. It was just an apparition that did not last. And that's how we knew it was benign. So, in your case, Ken, you would have said, oh, well, it's just good. It's not a big deal, folks, basically.
Yeah, oh, well, I guess that's not a good or a bad sign topic there. But
exactly, it was just benign. There was nothing really there to worry about.
It's like, why do you see them? And it's a ghost is lingering, and that's another thing in itself. But, if you see a child spirit, a lot of times they pick the child spirit because it's the most acceptable and harmless. And you could say that about the angels, too, but
yes,
why would an angel need to appear to you unless you really thought you were, like, about ready to lose it, and then it appeared and calmed you and all the above, and it didn't come back. And then, that can happen. Just like the stranger who disappears after they push you out of the way of getting hit by an oncoming car, or any one of those kind of phenomenon that's positive, it's short, and doesn't last.
Very much so.
And some of the signs here can go down, and it actually takes up quite a bit, but that's why I say test the spirit. You can ask, why are you here?
Kids.
What do you want? That's what Padre Pio did in one case.
Exactly. This is my home. I have legal right over it. What do you think you're doing here?
And that's a good one. Can give you a kind of a difference, like, is it good or bad, by asking the question. But you have a right. They're in your house or your space.
Never forget, you're paying for that spot. Hello, I don't care if it's a campsite. If you paid for it, you can say, excuse me, get out.
Yeah, you rented it.
That's right, you rented it. It's a legal contract.
It's a temporary legal contract, yeah. You rented the use of it. It's yours. That's right then and there.
Folks.
Bless your campsite, folks.
Always. Carry your squirt gun full of holy water.
Is it a recognizable apparition? Was the child somebody you recognize, or did it try to provoke a mystery? And that's one sees. Most of the people see this and they want to solve the problem, because we always want to help children. It speeds things up. They show this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of pulling on your heartstrings a lot more, and so they know how to manipulate. So that's why we don't trust it. And that's why you should also test the spirit.
And that's how you supposedly, really, not supposedly, I shouldn't say supposedly, this is how you really know it is not a Shema, it is not an apparition, it's not something from your imagination when, like Ken said, bad things start happening to good people.
Yeah, it's going to bring along with the bad characteristics in just about every level, too. And then,
exactly.
And the signs of the demonic, the black eyes, these are just some that you might experience that just trying to pretend to be a spirit. Blackless shape forms, just because they can. Demons don't have a human form. We were made in the image likeness of God. That's probably what makes them mad. And that would be, of course, Jesus.
Oh, I agree.
Because you'll have the what they call the black shock, or just a shadow, the thing that changes its shape.
Yeah.
And they're the wraith, like a flying dish rag or something. Feet aren't manifested. They had some of those in some of the false Marian apparitions, and Lorraine Warren actually mentioned it in Gerald Brittle's Demonologist book.
Jen Evans says, "Hey, you want to chip on the light bill, babe? You can stay. If not, get the heck." If you're gonna pay the light bill, I like that. Good one, John.
Yeah, you're gonna chip in. You're gonna chip in on the rental of the campsite.
That was so funny.
Sleep paralysis is also occurring. If someone says their dead relatives visiting them and they're getting sleep paralysis, that's not good. That's just venom of the spider. That's the way the demons work. We consider that totally a level of manifestation. Not necessarily. Could skip right over it and go to other things, but we always see that in there. And I'll say it, and people go, "How did you know?"
Exactly.
And I could say, "I am Kenneth the Great," but I don't do that because we don't go that way. That's 3 a.m. wake-ups are between the hours of 2 and 4. If you're seeing it exactly at 3 a.m., do you really think a demon's going to like make you see it at 3 a.m.?
Precisely.
I think your guardian angel's waking it up at that time so that you know to get up and do something. Don't wander around a house with a flashlight thinking, oh yeah, what is going on? No, just go ahead and take action right away and then go back to sleep and ignore it.
Exactly.
Feet on the ground, human size also goes with the non-manifested
And that's
feet.
what Athena was saying earlier, too. Do not address it. Do not talk to it. Especially if it's dark and you're feeling geeky, you know? Start saying your prayers and turn over, cover your head, run, whatever you got to do. No, do not address.
In the case of Padre Pio, and I hope I didn't tell the story too many times, where he said, if you ask that question, like he says, you there, what are you doing here? And he says he was the spirit of a monk who used to be a Capuchin monk in the chapel. And he asked for some masses to be said his soul would be released, that he'd be free after that. And not necessarily released, they hold themselves there a lot of times. And so if you do prayers and you have prayers offered, I mean, in the back of the book and on the website, I think I have a novena that has worked very successfully. Or you can just have masses offered for the poor soul.
Yes.
In the case of Padre Pio, I think it was 3 masses. And it happened to Sister Faustina, too.
Totally.
We can get into that a little bit later on the one that happened with Faustina. Physical manipulation.
Phenomena.
Phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Occurrences won't increase over time with a ghost spirit. I mean, so those are, we're talking about good and bad.
Well, and that's something too, okay, because I've lived in a few haunted houses that have had ghostly apparitions. And in some of them, there's like a clockwork, a regularity of what type of year and what time that they'll appear, the
annuals.
And it's not at night. It's not at midnight, folks. It's not at 2 a.m. It's like in the middle of the day, like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 4. And you're seeing like this red-shirted, brown pants thing standing there, hand on his hip, and you're like, okay, that's nice. Why don't you go play somewhere else? Leave me alone.
Yeah, if there's suicide there, and they committed suicide at 2 o'clock that day, they'll appear at 2 o'clock. Maybe every time at that same time of the year.
That's not a good spirit, folks.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in some cases, we don't know. Foul smells not localized and moving. These are some demon checklist stuff. So it tries to provoke you into conversation.
Yeah.
If you ask it like Padre Pio did, who was a living saint, so I mean, don't think that you can get away with that. Like Brian Harnoy's and Ghost Hunters or something provoking.
Yes.
That if you just ask it a question, you're not provoking it into conversation. And what's he going to do? Say, hey, you think the Mets are going to win this year? And then you're going to go, I don't know. I'm thinking about calling my bookie. What do you think? And you start asking for prophecy. Or tell me where my next boyfriend is going to come from. The young teenage girl says. I mean, it's too tempting. I mean, that's why there's the Witch of Endor story in the Bible where Saul was condemned by what some say that wasn't actually the spirit of Saul.
No,
I mean, Samuel. I think it was the spirit of Samuel,
I think it was, because if you look at the fact of what the Bible foretells, the first part being the prophecy of the Christ, the second part being the actual telling of Christ, and then, the death and resurrection as a word made manifest into what? The church was his bride. So if you look at that whole story of Saul, I mean, let's talk about that for 2 seconds in regards to ghosts, because that's the only thing that people actually have to look at who are, Bible-only believers, is, that was a demon. They think that's, that's not really a ghost, it was actually a demon. Where did people go that died in the first part of Jewish history? They went into a place, Sheol, they went into hell.
Yeah,
there was no way out.
It was a hell because they're cut off from God.
When
it wasn't
Christ
flames.
died, and he was gone for 3 whole days, folks. What happened? He went to Sheol. He went and he unlocked the door from the inside, and he let them out. And what did Christ say? How long must I be among you and desire to gather you among me? And you don't want me. So the ghost of Saul was supposedly not going anywhere. He was staying where he was. He was upset because, or not Saul, it was, now you got me saying Saul too.
Oh, Samuel. Yeah.
The prophet is like, excuse me, I'm sleeping. What you waking me up for? In other words, his soul was at rest.
Yeah, he condemned him. That's the way they use the words. He condemned Saul.
To call...
That's not good.
Exactly. To call a resting spirit was asking for trouble, because the Witch of Endor knew that his rest, he may have been a very ugly, hateful person in life. So if she summoned this ugly, hateful person, he was going to be a raving maniac. But because he was a beloved prophet, she didn't have any bother. She didn't have any worries. She didn't have to do any other spells. And the funny thing is here, too, kids, I just want to point out real quick, people that call themselves clairvoyants and witches and everything else, there's a really good example. Did she have an idea who that man was that asked her to wake up a prophet? She should have. Why didn't her demons tell her that was a king? And she could get stoned to death. Good question, kiddies. Food for thought. So onward and upward on ghosts.
Yeah, it was in the Bible because that was definitely God's will.
Very,
and I think it was definitely Samuel. Yeah, on the that's a demonic checklist, so we're not going to keep on that because we get off. But that's the discerning, and
yes,
we're talking about the nature of ghosts more. So, which denominations believe in ghosts? Well, as far as I know, it's only the Roman Catholic. The Orthodox have a limited belief.
I know,
on it,
and I know we had a friend of ours say that Catholics don't have any specific belief on ghosts, but we actually don't have anything in writing. Yet it is understood and it is talked about among exorcists, among nuns, among priests, that ghosts exist. If you talk to any priest, they're going to say that there is nothing in the canon, there is nothing in tradition, other than the Bible example of the prophet Samuel. That is the only ghost reference we have.
Well,
they will not
there's
say,
some other ones in there. Oh, that kind of thing. And that's
as far as people looking at the Bible, but in our church, we've got tons of references. Oh my gosh, tons of references where people saw ghosts.
Yeah.
And, very, very, very.
Everybody was so ready to expect ghosts in Jesus' time, even.
Exactly.
Oh, he's a ghost walking on the water. Oh, he's a ghost. He's resurrected from the dead.
Precisely.
If they didn't know what a ghost was, they didn't expect humans to come back as ghosts. Why? And then you said, Jesus died on the cross, so there's no more. It's all, the sins have been paid. Well, there was a gravestone from 300 A.D. that, for example, that they found, archaeologists found, and it was of a child. Yep. And it said on there, it's basically said in Maccabees, it was asking for prayers for the deceased, which validates and see, it's called purgatory when you're in this existence plane between this world and the next heaven. That you're on an on-deck circle, but you have some community service to finish. You gotta, well, if we're talking baseball, you're the groundskeeper,
basically,
or something, whatever thing.
And there's Athena's got a good point here, believing that there's certain beliefs, some religious beliefs that the spirit walks the earth for 40 days. Well, in Pentecost, kids, all right, it was predicted. Pentecost, Penta being 50, that Christ would send the Paraclete in 50 days, which he did. Pentecost, he'd arrived. In certain faiths, such as the Jewish faith, we're talking about ghosts here, someone must sit Shiva, somebody must sit with a dead body and continue to pray specific prayers over the dead body, with the dead body, so the soul doesn't wander and get trapped and they can go to rest. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, some of that's based on truth, and
very, very, very much so. Because they don't, believe in the specific heaven option of God saying, "Hey, come on home with me." They only believe in the eternal rest. All right, so onwards and upwards with our ghost list, kids. We're going to go into the next one, and one last thing about the options for ghosts appearing. It's rare that ghosts appear at night. They do appear at night, and we're talking about benign or harmless, or, Ken calls them good ghosts. I just call them benign ghosts. They will appear in cemeteries from time to time, but usually when you're looking at this sort of specter, it usually, when you look into what it is, where it is, and how it's occurring, something very violent happened to that person. And for whatever reason, God is allowing the image of that person, because they can't interact and they can't talk to you. By the law of nature, they're not allowed to. It's like 1,000,000 to 1 that any good ghost is going to have any interaction with you whatsoever. Only demons do that, right? So
yeah, they use that a lot.
So
especially a custom one that's customized for you. You're a teenager, you're lonely. Let's appears the member of the opposite sex that's the same age and they died in a tragic car wreck. If you're a parent, to have kids, you empathize with children.
Exactly.
If you're a UFO enthusiast or a New Ager, how about a gray alien? It causes sleep paralysis.
Oh, exactly. So we were talking about occurrences being during daytime. Oh, my gosh. And this is another good one, kids. When you're talking about ghosts as opposed to something very, very negative, you want to talk about stink. Oh, my gosh. We're talking worse than hockey bags. Sorry, Blake. I know I loved you and all your teammates and being your coach and all, but we're talking worse than hockey bags, worse than football buddies bags, worse than gym stinky bags. And I'm getting hearts for the stink. I love it. It's so funny. Maybe it's something else. But the stink is just, it's like something so dead, like a rat or something under your porch. It's so bad.
It's death.
It's unmistakable that something very vile is nearby. And that smell is just, that is not a ghost. Also, a ghost, a typical specter. There's this really one fabulous haunted house. It was a B&B in Michigan that when I was on the Sunrise Coast, and I used to promote the Sunrise Coast, I'd go by and I'd talk to this gal from time to time because I love this. This place was a 3-story and it had a couple of ghosts that would occasionally just interact with each other in the top level. No one else would never look at anyone, never acknowledge anyone.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than a specter because it doesn't really bother you. It doesn't talk to you. Whereas if something is trying to provoke you, talk to you, interact with you, it is not a ghost.
Yeah, often ghosts don't know when you're there, and just because they're not there doesn't mean, which is another thing in the list. Residual is another hokey atheist that don't believe in the afterlife theory. Throw it in the trash. Don't even talk about it anymore. There's no such thing as, it's been recorded into limestone, and so it's playing back like a video recorder. Oh, give me a break. Come on. I know we fix those things. I could probably build one from scratch. Electronics, video recorders, or whatever like that. I mean, that's what I do for a living, and that's why we have the show tonight in the format. So you got to understand, this is not, there's nothing scientific about the playback. There's an intelligence behind it. You're seeing it. If it's an event, it must be made itself known. Some horrible, tragic anniversary of a Civil War scrimmage. We got Wilson's Creek here.
Oh, I know, and people are constantly even capturing this, even on digital, which it's hard enough catching on old-fashioned Polaroid, but digital is amazing. And oh my gosh, there's
get more dark in there too.
Explanation, kids. There's no explanation. I don't care if you believe in ghosts or not. You can't explain these visages that make themselves known. Why? They're not trying to contact you. They're not trying to talk to you or me. They're just hanging out. Now, the next one on Ken's list is the anxiety intensifies. And as we were talking earlier, we already know, anytime there's anxiety, what does that mean? Let's see. Ghosts aren't going to make you feel anxious. They might startle you because you're like, what the heck is that? But you're not afraid. You don't get that gut instinct to jump off a building to get away from it. Or, to try and disappear into the corner of your bedroom so that it can't even see you're in there.
Now, unless you have a fear of the dark, but you have to know yourself before you give it an analysis of that. And that's why it's bad to make that call for people. People are too proud to admit they got anxiety or fear of the dark, especially guys, and some gals, I guess.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's definitely key. And then you'll have anxiety for no reason. And if you're not normally like that, those spirits bring that feeling with them, and they like that. That's their favorite one.
Oh, totally. And Rose brought up a really good point, which we have to address right away. Okay, kids? This is in regards to the smells, because you know how we were talking about wonderful smells. Sometimes there were certain ghosts in certain areas. You know, you might smell. A favorite was rose water with some ghosts, and I'm trying to think of another one. Lavender, lavender soap. A smell of English lavender, especially for some of these older ghosts that live in the lighthouses. They didn't have access to a lot of the, shall I say, the modern conveniences of soap and water and stuff that we have, you guys. So what they would use is they would use like a specific brand, or like maybe they got a shipment of some exotic coconut oil before, you know, they tried to walk across the ice and they died, and then occasionally you'll smell that coconut oil. Now that we're talking about a ghost. Now Rose has a question, Ken. Related specifically to this, can a demon cause a good smell? So in other words, can you walk into a place while you're investigating or you're questioning people, and all of a sudden, let's say your grandmother made, you know, apple rhubarb pie with cinnamon, and all of a sudden you walk in and you smell cinnamon, and you're like, that smells really good. But all of a sudden your stomach starts to hurt, and you know, you kind of like you feel like you're itchy, kind of like are uncomfortable.
I know.
There is the indefinable fact that no matter what a demon can address to your senses, the rest of your body will not feel at ease. Am I wrong, Ken?
Oh, it goes right back to what you just said earlier when we're talking about like identifying the negative. Let's look for the footprints of the demonic, and then you see them there, and you're like,
true.
I don't trust this one good thing because the other things are there. You know, sleep paralysis, seeing shadows at the corner of your eyes, or any other negative things. Not sleeping at night, waking up at 3 a.m., hearing phantom noises. You know, stress and anxiety are over the charts. Yeah, so we have to look for that, and they might do that, especially if this brings a memory that might invoke curiosity. Like, I wonder if my Aunt Elsie's here. Let me call that psychic medium my friends have been bothering me to do. And then next thing you know, you got an Annabelle doll running around the house with a crayon drawn up in your wall. No, I'm not going to say. I don't even know if that's true. It's hard to say.
That's just like, that's
the initial part was supposed to be
about
true,
the
though.
Smells.
But, you know.
And the demonic can distract you with visions and smells, but it can't last, okay? Especially if you're in a state of grace, if you pray regularly, if you have a good relationship with your Creator, kids, you're not going to be deceived for long, because the other senses you've got, they're going to go bing, bing, bing. They're all going to be firing at once, and you're going to say, this doesn't seem right. And that's basically what, you know, you're going to get to. So
here's a couple of things that I thought would be, before we move off of smells real quick, is that some people, it's like, they found out that the house had a fire in there, so when they smelled the fire, they thought it had something to do with that. Like, and then they found that no one perished in the fire. In one case, they discovered that the house had burned to the ground, another one was built up, and so when they saw a shadow, they thought, I wonder if he's charred. And of course, I said, well, that's what they do. They appear to be Oscar, the trophy, a lot of times. And if it had the smell of fire, and not the death, you know, the burning flesh smell. Yeah, that's one of the ones that demon.
That's awful.
But it doesn't mean someone died that way. They just like that smell. And there's a smell of death from just a corpse, and that's usually also one that brings violence with it, because it's a death and violence spirit. Because violence is really designed like suicidal thoughts to promote death. The smells can be sulfur. It doesn't necessarily mean, you know, fire, because matches use sulfur and that kind of thing. But some of those characteristics, there's even a smell of, we'll just say, sinful sexuality that people might recognize. They do that because they can provoke your senses based on smells, and that's where we go back to the pie or cake.
And not just that, it is a major temptation to get your mind that distracted off what you're trying to figure out or what you're trying to think about or focus on. And it just completely just jostles you. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, kids, we're about to the top of the hour. Let's wrap this up, Ken. We've got about 7 minutes.
Well, more than that, though, but don't run anywhere. I've got to stay till 10 after, okay? All right, T. So that's the checklist, and we got down to the phantom noises, which is, you know, another sense right there. when you hear them say your voice in your ear, that's a common demonic thing. And I know we're talking about the demonic because we're trying to get you into differentiating. This is another one you can't really do it and fitting inside an hour, obviously.
I know, it's really
They'll
difficult.
say your voice, and they'll say it, and sometimes, and most of the time, you'll hear in just your left ear, they'll just say your name like, Farah. And then people will say...
But I don't hear it like that. I hear it like
a lot more faint?
Yeah, no, I just feel it like in 2 syllables, like when things are calling me, it's like...
Yeah,
and I'm like,
they drag
get
it out.
away.
Yeah. They drag
Don't
it
be
out.
upsetting me. Don't make me have to go to the bathroom.
Now, I don't know where it goes from there because it doesn't seem to have any
I don't want to know.
specific target, but that tends to be, it's not your dead relative.
No, it's never.
That's actually
your
one of the
dead
stages of
relative.
demonic manifestation, like
Totally.
sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis either has happened or will happen around that time if you don't do anything. If you don't take action, these things progress to those things. So moving on to the other questions, we had this thing, and it's on Reel Deel's, Reel Deel, spelled with all E's on the YouTube channel. And the backwards question of, are all ghosts demons? Are all demons ghosts? And the reason is because sometimes people don't perceive there's demons there, and they call it a malevolent spirit, and they classify it according to its mood, like it's just a human spirit who's got a bad disposition. And, well, you can get that with an old farmer, but he's going to be working.
Completely.
Yeah. And so we're still looking for the nature, even when it's a human spirit. I got the Kindle version printed up of Father Amorth's book, and, people don't understand.
No.
After all of this, people aren't getting Kindle that much because it's kind of a pain. I don't like reading stuff on my computer. I'd rather read it in a book, wouldn't you?
I know. I love hard copies too. So it's like I can sit there and smoke a cigar, have my tea, and I'm really just like, yes, I know.
Father Amorth, interview Memoirs of an Exorcist. It's interviewed by Marco Tassati, and it's I don't know how many pages because I formatted it. But what was good? This is the 3rd book by Father Amorth, as far as I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And he's got several things in there. First time he mentions it, Father Fortea did not mention either, about ghosts and about how they can work with demonic spirits. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes! All right, Father Amorth. Because exorcists work with human possessions and demons, and they don't know about house haunts. They don't know about objects with attachments as much. And that's what I love about Father Chad. He's kind of like a combination between us and some of the exorcists out there. He's kind of an all-in-one. Yeah. We'd be Jedi, he'd be Yoda.
Total Yoda.
So, Yoda.
Yoda.
And Father says here, this is on a part that's called Souls of the Deceased. Even I have encountered the souls of the damned, but I always seen that there was a demon manipulating them. We've been saying this for a long time. I'm not saying that we said it first or anything like that. I'm just saying we've been trying to get it out there. Don't expect that every ghost is good. They'll be puppeted by demonic. It has not manifested itself, or it has not been invited. The ghost that's doing the bidding for the demonic might get you to give the demonic invitation through curiosity. Don't you agree with that, Farah? And the other one is the devil uses the souls of the damned, so the interviewer probes further. And we know from many exorcist cases that accounts throughout history and anthropology and other religions that not all souls go directly to heaven or purgatory, hell after death. Some remain trapped because of their material attachments even, and their resentments and hatred towards others. Remember, unforgiveness.
Yes, unforgiveness.
Let's go very deep.
Big one, kids. Gotta be really careful.
Only when you check and provoke the individual by the way of exorcism can you determine whether their affliction is really mental illness or if it's an infernal illness.
Totally.
And sometimes, as I said, test the spirit. Souls in the dark. I do believe that a damn soul. Great. Probably going to get flagged now.
That's okay.
Can be involved as well. We even know that demons have a hierarchy. Why couldn't a demon be in chief and command a DAMNED soul?
Damn
well,
soul.
see, this is Father Amorth, one of my favorites. We're still compadres and supporting the International Association of Exorcists, no matter what springs up. That's the one that we put ourselves under. And yes, we're getting close to that top of the hour, and
we're going to have to finish whatever we were going to say on ghosts later, because we have a couple questions to go to.
Yeah, let's do that
and finish up our hour, kids.
Yeah, we'll finish that. We'll go in. Now we know what we're going to do next week. Father Bob Bailey's on in 2 weeks, so we'll wrap these up next week.
Don't forget to save the date. The next 2 Thursdays are going to be great. Also, I've got some other cool giveaways to give away. I've got some more deal swag stuff to play with here.
That's the centerpiece, isn't it? Yeah, that could be turned into a brooch.
I got more swag. I'm going to post it so when you guys do the like and share thing. So don't forget to like this video right here. Hit the like button and subscribe if you can, because it helps boost us. It helps get the truth out there. And it's really, really nice. We love discussion, so even if you don't agree with us, please leave a comment, you guys. And if you don't like us, that's fine too. Give us a grrr. We're okay with that too. So, questions. Top of the questions here. All right. How? And this is a good one right here. How do we know? All right, from Valerie, is all sleep paralysis demonic, or could it come from something else?
So far, I haven't, and I asked John. Like I said, I talked to these people because I didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of people that were really along. Coming out of the 70s, there was nobody. That's why the Warrens kicked up. I disagree with them as you way. I asked John Zappas. I asked Lorraine Warren. I didn't know Ed personally at that level, except asking him for about an opinion on Satanic Case in 1987. But what I was going to say is, so far, when I asked her on the phone, even she said. I said, have you ever run into a case of sleep paralysis where there was not a demonic spirit in the house? She says, no. And I thought, all right, that's pretty much what I found from the research, study, experiences. And then I asked you about that same thing, Farah. What was your answer to that?
I hadn't either, although I did have I had a relative that had epilepsy that had that happen. Yeah. And that was the only other time, but that was a medical...
that was a
neurological condition, kids, that basically can cause one to feel trapped in the body. And Julius Caesar, they used to call that the sickness of the gods, because some of the most brilliant people in the world had epilepsy. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, well, guess what? The answer to that one, too, is look again for demonic footprints. Is there a sense of feeling of evil? Always. Do you feel a crushing weight on your chest? Do you see a red eye specter or red eyes in the room? Are you having other experiences? Look at all the footprints, and you'll know it's not medical, or not. But I'd lean more towards demonic. Just for the safe side, you can always say prayers, bless your room, put a St. Benedict medal on, and a miraculous medal, because we're seeing how it works with the possessed so well. Yes. I think why not avoid the possession and skip it all together?
Okay, I got one more question I got to get in.
Okay.
All right, because we have so many fabulous people that we know, in the paranormal field, trying to, help people get out of certain activities. We have a question from Doris, and somebody else in chat, I forgot who else. How do we, please let's go over step by step. We're investigating, we're finding out, people are doing things, they're practicing occult with certain items, whether it's candles, Ouija boards, scrying tables. I mean, sometimes people use a whole mirror in their bedroom and they, draw glyphs on it and they do really weird stuff with it. How do we destroy this? An item specifically that's been used for occult practices. Walk them through it, Ken, please.
Oh, my goodness. Depends on what the item is, how severe it is that you suspect.
Well, let's just, let's just talk about it.
Well, there's got to be a binding prayer to bind it so that when it's disposed of, it doesn't stay, that it doesn't come out of it. See, if you destroy it, especially if you burn it, you basically run it out of there. Imagine if Christ just expelled the demons anywhere and they didn't have anything to go.
Precisely, he stuck it in
like
pigs.
the pigs. And they go and drown themselves because they had... but I don't know. I suppose that's a bad example. But Gabriel Amorth goes into detail. He will go into the detail of doing a priestly prayer to bind it and use holy water, and then he'll burn it and he'll dispose it of in moving water, not a lake, but river. And that's what they tell you.
Where it's trapped.
I say sometimes you don't have that
trapped.
choice, and if you have a Ouija board, you spray over it, make it unusable with black, so you haven't destroyed it, and go bury it in the woods somewhere and hope it doesn't play music like Jumanji to get.
And you know what Ken's been telling people lately on
Just kidding,
I hope we don't get demonetized for this. Smear it with some nasty like hamburger grease, or maybe some dog or cat gunga hooey out of the cat litter box. Just smear the thing so it reeks. It looks disgusting, and nobody will ever want to touch it.
Yeah, no one will want to go in that bag when they're going to the garbage at the dump.
Kids.
Yeah.
Ow! Don't forget, kids. Battle's already been won, and we're here to help you win the fight and win it right. We're the Reel Deal. Subscribe, like, and share, please, if you dare. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have more fun, a little bit more lay over the ghost next week. Until then, say your prayers, rabbits. Keep your squirt guns loaded with the holy water. And
that's probably a good idea.
Always.
Where it's getting out there.
Sleep with the light on if you have to. We love you. Smoochies, smoochies. Good night.
God bless everybody. Next time, same time, same channel. See you here.
Say prayers.